Welcome to the Writing Gym Podcast. We're here to pump up your writing. And now your host, Andy Brixey, personal trainer at the Writing Gym.
Hey there, writers and muse daters. I'm really excited about today's episode. Have you always wondered what happens after you get a publishing contract? How much of the all authors must promote themselves is really a myth, and how much is true? How much support do publishing houses really offer first-time authors? Well, here is your opportunity to be in the know. In this episode, we interview Samara, a publicist for a major publishing house, and get this skinny. Enjoy! Hello there, writers and muse daters, and welcome to the Writing Gym Podcast. Today, we welcome Samara Rafert to the Writing Gym Podcast. She is the publicist and exhibits manager for Ohio University Press and its trade imprint, Swallow Press. Prior to that, she was an editorial assistant at book and magazine publishers in the Twin Cities of Minnesota and in Connecticut. Worked as a freelance writer, was a bookseller at Half Price Books for 3 years, where she ran the rare and collectibles book department, and then got an MFA in fiction writing at Ohio State University. Samara actually works with Terrence Harkin, and we're so excited to have her here. Welcome.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
And we, of course, want to welcome our resident writing coach, Annalisa Parent, the gal who helps you pump your writing into shape in the Writing Gym. Welcome back to the Writing Gym Podcast, Annalisa.
Pleasure to be back with you, Andy, and with you, Samara.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about, we have so many authors who come to us and say, you know, what are the benefits of working with a publisher, with somebody who handles these publicist experiences for us. Can you talk about what that looks like for you, Samara?
Sure. I mean, I can think of a few things offhand. The primary benefit that I can think of in terms of working with a traditional publisher is there's a lot of unseen stuff that goes into publicizing books and into the marketing of the books. It's everything from distributing our catalog. Most traditional book review outlets, such as Publishers Weekly, Kirkus Reviews, will not review self-published books. And so if you do want your book to have a chance at being considered in those outlets, a traditional publisher can help you with that. We can in no way guarantee it, but we do have our books regularly reviewed in those places. I would say another thing, just speaking from my perspective as a publicist, is because I've worked regularly with a variety of authors and a variety of types of books, I have probably a broader knowledge base in terms of media contacts and sense of how to publicize specific kinds of books that might be tougher to come by if you're an author going it on your own. I mean, I'm sure there are tons and tons of resources out there for authors who don't want to work with a traditional publisher, and that's great. But I do feel like I've developed kind of a broader overview that comes in handy.
That's so good, Samara. And, what I really appreciate about what you're saying is, one of the things that authors come to me and say so frequently is, I put this book out on Amazon or whatever, and it's just not selling. Why? I thought if I build it, they would come. And all of the reasons that you're pointing out are the reasons, right? The distribution and the media channels. And those are really the advantages that, your house is a smaller house as things are concerned. Nevertheless, you still got access to all of these resources that get your authors' names out into the marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, if you looked at it just in terms of numbers, could you say that we have the largest social media following in the world? No. Do we have prominent ads placed in prominent publications every issue? No, but there is so much just kind of unseen work. We also do work with sales reps who hand sell the books to networks of bookstores, including specialty shops like at museums and places like that. And then we also are, I can't speak to how the distribution model works with self-published books, but I can say that our books are distributed through Baker and Taylor, through Ingram, through all the places that any mainstream publisher's books are going to be available through. And so that does, give us an ability to saturate the market that might be more challenging otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just to break it down for our listeners who don't spend their day all day in the industry as you and I do, Samara, what we're talking about here is this distribution question. And this is something that, I think we're pulling the curtain back on for a lot of authors, because this is the thing that so many authors just don't even know exists. And distribution is what it sounds like. It's how your book gets out into the marketplace. And traditional publishing houses have mechanisms, we'll just put it that way, that get their book out into the marketplace in ways that self-published authors are prohibited from doing, simply because of the way that things are set up. Is it fair? We can talk about that, but that's just the way that it is right now. And the other point that you made, Samara, that's really important are those sales reps. I go to a lot of trade shows. I meet a lot of sales reps for a lot of different imprints. And what I know about them is that they're very regionalized, right? So the ones that I meet out here in the West, they know that, Bob in Denver loves this kind of book. And so when this kind of book comes out, they're going to call Bob, whereas, Dave in, Colorado Springs loves that kind of book. And so when that kind of book comes out, they're going to call Dave. They're very niche. They're very in tune with the people that they serve within the region that they serve to get the books out. So that's just sort of in layman's terms what it is that we're talking about how books actually sell in the marketplace. Anything you want to add to that, Samara, that I've left out, kind of breaking that down?
Well, I would say, and this is, again, just something I can speak to from working at a university press, is we are also a member of it used to be the American Association of University Presses, but because there are an increasing number of presses from elsewhere, we're now the Association of University Presses. But we have a listserv going where the publicists, marketing people are constantly troubleshooting, trading ideas, networking to really mutually support one another in our goal of getting books out there. And the association itself does a lot on behalf of its members in terms of marketing. Like they will set up, advertising co-ops where we can participate. Like, for example, for a few years running, for really quite inexpensively, we've been able to participate in the Nation magazine's University Press's advertising feature, and we get we get stats on how many link clicks we got. It's really helpful information. And there's just a lot of professional development that I think does trickle down to our authors, because university presses support each other. And I'm sure that exists in other sectors of publishing as well, but that's another resource that I think would be harder to access as a solo author.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, one of the topics that I speak all over the world on are the different ways that authors can publish, because that's a huge question that authors have. And one of the things that I say is, when you traditionally publish, you've got the power of a publishing house behind you. And those people who work with you are professionals. They're trained to do the thing that they do every day, all day. It's what they do. And I think what you're tapping into is not only are you a professional, you're very good at what you do all day, every day, but you've got the connections that a professional would have within that context. Whereas the self-published author who tries to wear every single hat not only doesn't have those skills necessarily, but also won't have the professional connections that someone in your position would have from years of experience.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary.
Yes.
I don't mean to, in any way put down the idea of self-publishing, because I think it's obviously a really valuable option for a lot of authors. But, just thinking about, like it or not, there is still a sort of institutional stamp of approval that publishing with a traditional house can bring.
As a writing coach who works with these writers every day and helps them to become authors, I'm really appreciating, the validation here of what you're saying around creating that quality synopsis that isn't just book specific, but is market specific. all of these questions of knowing your audience and building out your author platform. I sort of feel like, I don't know, I'm the mom who's been saying this all this time, and now like you're the teacher who's like, yeah, by the way, all this stuff is true. This is how it works in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, like for example, the other day I sat in on a conversation about how we as publishers can help our authors market themselves. And one of the points that came up that was really important, that I'm sure a lot of your listeners are already aware of, is it's not just about marketing your specific book. It's about marketing what you have to say and that topic, and positioning yourself as an authority within the realm that book is relevant to. And that might be a little more slippery if you think about fiction or poetry, just because they don't always have an easily identifiable topic that you can tie them to.
I feel like we talk so much about that idea of community in the writing gym and in, our Facebook groups about, building that really strong author community. And we tell the people, these people, the 2,000 people in this Facebook group are going to be the first ones to go out and purchase your book. The people that you've gone through our writing program with are going to be the first ones in line at your book signing. Building that community, building, that platform is how you move forward, is how you go from writer to author. And we actually have one of our writers have a good question for you. Social media is obviously a huge part of publicity now. And, for some people who aren't familiar with doing social media and things like that, one of the worries is the negative comments on social media, kind of the trolls and the, that kind of stuff that is bound to come up because, not everyone in the world is a peach. Right. So, how do you kind of help your authors to deal with that while not taking on that negativity themselves, not going, well, I guess, my book is awful and I should quit?
Yeah, I don't know that I have an easy answer for that, because we all deal with it, right? Like I know personally, because I run the press's social media, it's like my biggest fear is that I'll inadvertently say something like either stupid or inadvertently offensive and get jumped on for it. And luckily that hasn't happened, but that is one reason why I'm not as active, because it is hard to get outside of that fear, and it does take time to really like carefully position stuff. But I would say, I mean, I don't know that we've had any authors that I'm aware of who have really encountered a lot of online blowback for their stuff. And actually, a lot of the authors who are most active on social media are on the academic side. And so they're already, like, there's a very, like, for example, we've recently kind of quantified how much more of a driver to awareness of our books Twitter is than other platforms. And a big part of that is because academics are super active on Twitter. And it gets back to this idea of being part of a conversation and feeling comfortable enough about, I guess, what you have to contribute to the conversation that you can participate in it like a little more naturally. I don't feel like I'm really answering your question though, because it's a hard question to answer. You never know like what could blow up in your face, but luckily I haven't had to deal with that personally. I would say, some of our authors are more confident and more comfortable with social media than others, for sure. And just my personal instinct is if you're not a person who's comfortable with social media in the first place, I'd rather an author like that think about other ways to be active around their book than try to force themselves into doing something that doesn't feel natural to them. And I have found that there is kind of an age difference. The younger authors obviously are more comfortable being active online. I mean, it's not hard and fast. We definitely have older authors who are great online too. But the worst thing to me is when someone seems really unnatural or forced on social media. And so, there are other options for promoting yourself, and publishers will want to work with authors on finding the way that makes the most sense to them to get word out about the book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, you did answer the question, because I feel like that within all that was, you know, the answer of, you know, it's very easy to go in a negative direction depending on what you post. You need to be careful about, you know, how you go about it. Do it in a way that's natural to you. You know, be true to yourself as a person and as an author. And I mean, from our side of it, and shout out to Barbara who asked that question. You know, from our side of it, it's the mindset portion of it, of, you know, you can't control what people say, what people think, no matter how amazing your book is, how well it sells, you know, how brilliant you are. There are always going to be people who are negative. But, you know, what you have to do is just say, I am true to myself. This is what I am doing. This is my dream, and I'm doing it well. So I need to let those people kind of fall by the wayside.
If you like what you've heard and are interested to see if you're the right fit for the Writing Gym, here's what to do next. Head to www.datewiththenews.com/publishnow and book an appointment to speak with our team. Here's how it works. We'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes and we'll get crystal clear on 3 things: the best way for you to publish, the best way to achieve your publishing dream, and the exact strategy you should be using to reach your publishing goals. Remember, publishing a book well doesn't happen on its own. You need expert guidance to make it happen. We've helped writers all over the world to finish, publish, and sell their novels well, all while sharing their unique story and making the world a better place along the way. To see if we can help you to do the same, head to www.datewiththenews.com/publishnow. I'm Andy Brixey, personal trainer over in the Writing Gym, and I'm sure we'll talk soon. Happy writing. And hey, since you listened all the way to the end of the episode, here's this week's Quirk of the Week. I don't want to be a rat, but Annalisa turned down a full scholarship to Keene State. You'll have to listen to all of our episodes to learn more. Happy writing!